What is the funniest you've ever seen? Story 1. My little sister has a terrible adoptive mother. I hate the bee. She loves abusing my sister on a level that if the purge happened in real life, I'm foregoing safety for vengeance. Unfortunately, the bee thinks that because she is my sister's adoptive mother, she has some role of power over me as well. We decided on a sister's day out to the zoo, the bee decided to butt in on the trip. The bee kept demanding we take pictures of her in front of the animal enclosures, and demanded the same in front of where the hippos were. There were signs all over warning about what was going to happen. This was her own damn fault. One of the hippos blew crap and helicopter chopped with its tail caca out all over the back of the bee. It was like a runny, chunky caca potato bazooka went off. I could not stop effing laughing. My little sister could not stop. The other people around were laughing too, and the bee was in full Karen wee mode. FLMAO, sigh. Best visit to the zoo ever. There really is just no avoiding poop stories on these threads, huh? Well, in this case, I'll take it because that's pretty hilarious. Pretty sure the letter B has lost all meaning to me at this point, but hey, you hardly need vocabulary when you've got funny stories about hippo poop. Story 2. Posting for my mom. Unfortunately, I didn't exist yet when this happened. So my aunt, mom's sister, is an incredibly awful person. She has a voice like Ricky's mom in Better Off Dead, was horribly spoiled by her grandparents, firstborn girl in 4 generations, and just vindictively mean. She's the kind of person who goes well out of her way to demean people and convince people everyone hates you. She's also 5'2" and over 300 pounds. One day at a family gathering, she goes to sit on a wicker chair. The chair disintegrates under her. She then, while sitting on the floor, angrily looks at her mother, owner of the one's chair, and yells, "What the hell is wrong with your chair?" My mom had to run out of the room. She was laughing/crying so hard. Story 3. This drunk dude at a bar was telling a group of us that there was a guy sitting in a chair outside staring him down. Our friend had poor eyesight, and it didn't help that he was pee-drunk, but he was absolutely convinced that the guy outside wanted to fight him. We looked outside onto the patio, and sure enough, there was a guy in a chair with an evil look on his face, facing the window to the bar. I should also add that this was close to Halloween, and the guy sitting in the chair was a stuffed scarecrow with a pumpkin for a head, with a mean face drawn on it. We almost let our friend loose on this thing, but it was effing hilarious watching him rant how he's going to effing kill the guy and watch his back because the scarecrow probably had friends with him. I've seen enough prank videos to know there's a good chance a real person was hiding in that scarecrow. But even if not, you never know. That scarecrow might have gone to see the wizard and got himself a brain, along with a pair of hands to throw. Story 4. I was a Walgreens cashier in an extremely religious neighborhood full of rich old Baptists. One day a woman comes in to buy cigarettes and is something like $3 short. She starts digging around in her giant Mary Poppins bag holding up the line, wastes a good 5 minutes before she dumps the entire thing out on my counter. There in the detritus of a middle-aged housewife's bag was a crumpled up $10 bill. She yells, "Hallelujah, the Lord is looking out for me," and hands me the folded-up bill. I unfold it, and it's one of those fake tens people give waiters as tips. The ones with the Bible quotes on the inside. Me, God wants you to quit smoking. Okay, so today I learned there are apparently fake bills that people give as tips, apparently as some sort of indicator of just what a piece of absolute human garbage they are. Good to know, I'll keep my eye out for that. And if anything were to give me the tiniest amount of faith in a higher power, it is this woman having that happen to her. Story 5. There was a shop in London which sold the cloud ice creams with the circle of candy floss around the cone. It was real Instagram bait when it first opened. Think it might be closed now. I wanted to walk my boyfriend past it to show him the cues and what the ice creams looked like. As soon as we turned the corner, we saw a girl coming out, ice cream in hand, with her phone in position to get the perfect Instagram shot. As soon as she stepped over the doorway, the ball of ice cream fell on the floor and she was left with just the cone and candy floss. The sound it made was such a cartoon splat neither of us could believe it. It was just perfect timing with the perfect sound effect. Sounds a bit mean-spirited, but I can still hear the sound so clearly in my head, and it makes me laugh every time. Story 6. There's a brewery in my neighborhood. It's one of those cool places where people bring their dogs and their kids. Funniest crap I've ever seen was a 7 or 8-year-old girl playing Battleship against the bartender, but with no ships down. B3. Miss. Damn it, again? Battleships is perhaps one of my least favorite games to play, but damn if this little girl didn't find a way to make it sound like fun. Story 7. In a grade 8 gym class, a kid clotheslined himself with a volleyball net. He ran face first into it, and his legs went flying out from underneath him. It was like an effing cartoon. Story 8. I was lucky enough to watch Kung Pao enter the fist at the perfect age of 12 at a sleepover. Watching it back now as an adult, it's just insanely stupid, but for three 12-year-old boys, it was the most hilarious thing I'd ever seen. Never laughed harder. Story 9. A guy was sprinting down the hall in college, obviously in a hurry. Well, there was a floor mat right before the stairs at the end of the hall. The mat slipped as soon as he ran on it, so he lost his balance. But because he has momentum, he kept on running up the stairs trying to catch himself. Somehow he recovered and just ran out of the building. I could not handle it. Ah, a ballet of clumsiness. I'm more than familiar with that stuff because I'm really good at stumbling and running into stuff, but also really good at catching myself before I fall. The result is I often resemble a ballerina on Ambien. Story 10. I can never find it, but there's a green text about this redneck who scared off a bunch of teenagers while naked and screaming, "F me!" Story 11. At work in the lab one day, a senior coworker is up on the ladder and tries to pull a 60-pound power supply unit that cost $70,000 out of the rack we were repairing. Thing falls 7 feet, annihilates a table and another $35,000 with the equipment and slams on the floor. Coworker looks down from his perch and says, "Cha-cha real smooth," and goes back to work. I effing lost it. I work for a multi-billion-dollar defense company that had about 50 replacements in the back room. No big deal, but his absolute do not give an F response nailed me. Story 12. One of the funniest, not the funniest, but certainly top 10, circa 2004-2005. Principal of our middle school became fed up with the circle game kids were playing. Game where you make a circle with your fingers and hold it below your waist, so if you convince someone to look at it, you get punched. Principal holds up his fingers in the exact position as the circle game and yells at the entire cafeteria, "You see this? This is not okay." Random student, "Mr. Redacted, does this mean you're going to punch all of us?" Room goes silent. I mean, that's decently funny, but I really have to ask all the people who start posts like this, why don't you just tell the funniest one instead? What are you hanging onto it for? The series finale? It's not like once you tell it here, it's used up. Give me the good stuff. Story 13. That Russian road rage video where a guy was screaming at a van, then the people in the van dressed as cartoon characters went to beat him. Story 14. We had a power outage at work, so they decided to send us home early. The daughter of the firm's president was your stereotypical spoiled rich girl and was probably a size 10 but was squeezing her butt into size 8 pants because she couldn't accept she wasn't a single-digit size. She got excited about going home and did a high kick. Her pants split from her knee all the way up the back of her butt with the most cartoonish rip. The look of shock and embarrassment on her face was worth the price of admission. I was laughing so hard I fell on the floor. My abs hurt the following 2 days. Look, she wore tight pants and is spoiled. No need to poke fun at the size. But I do have to say, no matter who it is, pants ripping is generally hard not to laugh at. I certainly don't want anyone to be too embarrassed by it, but it's one of those inherently funny things. Story 15. Once during college, a group of us saw 2 blind people walk into each other and one bounced off and landed in a trash can. Obviously, this was a shock to both, and the trash can blind person shouted, "What are you, blind?" which was met with a very apologetic, "Yes?" I will never laugh that hard again. Hell, I'm laughing at it now, just typing this. Story 16. We were bringing lunch to the teachers at school, and my daughter announced that we made a special soup for Mr. S because he's a virgin. Mr. S is a vegan. Story 17. My friend was high and on the phone but needed to write something down, so he started looking for his phone. Story 18. It was because of me, actually. 7 years ago, I was a friend's apartment for a Bible study group. At one point, a guy was praying over a girl. Everyone was completely silent while they were praying, then out of nowhere, I farted loudly. I tried my hardest to hold it in, but I just couldn't. All eyes immediately were on me. Nobody in that apartment could stop laughing for about 20 minutes. Hey, when the Holy Spirit moves through you, you just have to go with it. In some churches, that might be considered speaking in tongues. Definitely upgrading my ticket to hell with that one, but it's worth it. Story 19. So I was selling popcorn for Boy Scouts while in a store, and this little, maybe 4-year-old girl runs at the sliding doors screaming about having a magic power that opens the doors. Too long didn't read. The door didn't detect her. Story 20. Guy making burgers on a grill in the back of a moving pickup truck while holding a beer in the other hand. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 21. I was desperate for cash in my late teens, so I took a 12-hour shift in a banana packing factory. I ended up working on a conveyor belt, picking the good nanas, throwing away the bad ones. You get the gist. About halfway through the most soul-sucking, mind-effing, monotonous working day of my life, I witnessed a man carrying a box of bananas, slipping on an escaped banana on the floor, throwing the whole box of lovely yellow fruit into the air and crashing epically into a 6-foot stack of banana boxes. Naturally, I buckled like a broken stool, rolling around the factory floor, peeing my sides. When I managed to compose myself, I realized that no one else had laughed, nor even so much as looked up from the hypnotic conveyor belt. I decided factories weren't for me and went back to the books. Anything assembly line is soul-crushing to be sure, but so soul-crushing that people couldn't even appreciate a real-life slip on a banana? No. That's too dark even for me. How little joy must be in a person's heart to not laugh at the very heart of comedy. That's just bananas. Story 22. In 7th grade, this kid sitting at my lunch table got hit in the eye with a pork chop. He immediately fell to the ground. It was the funniest crap I've ever seen in my lifetime. Story 23. Gallivant is a medieval musical comedy. In one episode, there are some characters reuniting, but in the background, King Richard is fighting a bunch of children, like 10-year-old children. There's a 5 to 10 second scene where Richard full-on decks a child while his companion goes, "Richard, they're children!" I've watched that 5 to 10 second clip dozens of times. Story 24. Mortar rounds hit our compound. Doc comes running out of the crapper stall, fumbling to get his pants up and buttoned as he's panicking. My sides hurt that day. Story 25. In elementary school, for our PE class, we had bowling pins as the flag in Capture the Flag. This kid that I wasn't too fond of was on the other team when we were playing it one day in class. He grabbed the bowling pin for my team and was quickly tagged out, and out of rage of fury, he threw up the bowling pin super high up into the air, easily 50 feet up. He proceeded to sit down and pout about being out, and in slow motion, the bowling pin started going back down and straight up thumping this poor kid in the head. He obviously started crying because that crap probably hurt like hell, but it still gives me a good chuckle a decade later. There's nothing worse than being a sore loser. Oh, what? Come on, that's good. Story 26. I was walking through downtown when there was a Segway tour going on across the street. One of the people in the Segway tour lost control and slammed into a pole. I still laugh uncontrollably when I think about it. I've never been on a Segway, and I'm not sure I would ever want to. I mean, the creator of the Segway died by trying to show off how easy it is to stop on a Segway, and he flew off a cliff. I'm not kidding. You can look it up. Story 27. When I was in college, I saw a monkey langur dangling its tail down a bolster and a dog trying to bite it, but whenever the dog came close to bite it, the monkey lifted its tail in air, leaving the dog baffled and angry. It went on for several minutes. It was hilarious. Story 28. A few years ago, my entire extended family went to spread my grandmother's ashes at the beach, and when we waded in about knee-deep, my brother threw the ashes into the air instead of tipping them into the water. He got smacked with a face full of grandma, started crying, and then had to dive into a wave fully clothed to get her off him. He was 30 years old. It must have been 10 seconds in total, but I, a grown woman, peed myself laughing, and in a fantastic send-off for her. Story 29. I work late nights at an on-campus bakery at my college, and it was the last night before winter break. Since there wasn't a whole lot to do, we were just goofing off and being dumb butts along with our manager. Our bakery is located inside of another building, and there's a gigantic window where people inside the building can see into our bakery. We were tossing around stale donuts, and as soon as this one guy walked by the window, my coworker chucks a donut at the window as hard as he can, and this guy straight jumps into the air, looks around, then finally realizes what happened. He just sort of stares at us stunned while we waved. I think I almost peed myself after he walked away. I worked in a bakery for a few years, and I never once threw around stale donuts. I feel like I really missed out, and now I may never get that chance again. Just goes to show, folks, you've got to take advantage of things while you can. I may have to live a life of what-ifs, but you don't. Story 30. This kid was bugging my friend, so she lunged at him like she was going to attack him. He turned to run and face first into a pole. She started laughing and turned to run away because the teachers were headed our way and face first into another pole. Both ended up in the nurse's office with matching bloody noses, and I laughed so hard I had an asthma attack. That's some straight-up Looney Tunes type crap. Story 31. One time in 5th grade, we had a discussion about the human body, and we got to the point how to pronounce the word penis. We all did good, except this one kid, Daniel. He tried to say it, but ended up saying pumpus. Me and my friends were laughing so hard I almost peed myself. To this day, me and my friends still laugh at that moment, LOL. Story 32. Probably only funny to me in the moment, but to this day, one of the funniest things I've ever seen. When I was a kid, we had a cat named Pepper. Pepper was in the front yard, hiding in a bush and darting her paw out at my dad, who was jumping back and forth around the bush playing with her. Little did he know, our neighbor was standing across the street, staring at him. Neighbor clearly could not see the cat and probably thought my dad had lost his mind. The dramatic irony of the situation hit me all at once and had me in stitches. Dad is inexplicably dancing around a bush. Neighbor is puzzled. The image still gets me to this day. I have to wonder what my neighbors think of me with the weird crap I'm always doing. There's a lot of talking to myself going on. Once I was arguing with myself and suddenly I heard one of the neighbors go, "What? What did I do now?" And I had to explain, No, I'm just rehearsing something out loud. Sorry. I wasn't rehearsing. It was just daydreaming nonsense. Story 33. My friend had a PC game based on the Phantom Menace, and we took turns playing it. I immediately decided to test whether I could attack the guards. I could. Another guard yelled at me, and I took off running around a corner. I was running past a group of kids, and one of them tried to talk crap about me being in trouble, but I swung my lightsaber and killed him mid-sentence. So he went, "Hey, mister, you're in big trouble." Ah! And I laughed so long that I was afraid I'd die. Story 34. Probably the video of this young guy singing some R&B song, and it's like he suddenly hits puberty because his voice changes. He looks horrified and starts yelling for his mom. I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe, so I sounded like I had a slow air leak. Wish I could find it again. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.